What up, IDS Mob? Thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show, courtesy of introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'm your host, HarryWilmington. And so today, we're going to be answering a couple of questions from a couple of guys that are dealing with a couple of women that are kind of acting very wishy-washy towards them in terms of solidifying days and times to go on dates with them. And it's possible that these girls may be stringing them along, but they're not sure what's happening, okay? So in the first guy's situation, it's a girl that he actually met up with late last year, hooked up with a time or two, and now, as he's been trying to schedule dates, things keep getting pushed aside. She's not answering text messages. He can't figure out what's going on. And then in the second message, it's a guy who met a woman 3 weeks ago, and he keeps trying to set up dates, but again, she keeps saying, oh, I want to go, but then I'm feeling kind of awkward, and then, oh, things keep coming up where I can't make it happen. And so what I want to reiterate to you guys is that when women like you and want to date you, they make it very, 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 very easy to take them out. And even the busiest of women will manage to find time in her schedule to see you. Because think about it. If a woman is trying to find the love of her life, then even in the midst of working, if somebody comes along that tickles her fancy, she's going to find 30 minutes here, an hour there, even if it means, hey, I usually go to bed at 10 o'clock, but I'll go to bed at 10:30 instead so I can spend a half hour with this guy to talk to him on the phone, to actually meet up for a cup of coffee. He ain't got to stay overnight, but we can at least, get together and talk for a bit. Like, women will make that happen. And so if you find that that's not happening, you may want to consider questioning just how high her interest is, because women that have high interest will always make time. So let's go ahead and read this first guy's message. This guy actually wrote to me directly to my email. And by the way, if you have a question you want answered on one of these shows, you can write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. All right. You can also go to the website, send a message that way. And you can also go there and check out my various eBooks, audiobooks, programs, all designed to help you guys date your introverted selves while still getting your precious alone time. Let's get into this guy's message. So he says, hi, I've quite recently started listening to your podcast, and you have been an immense help for me. Well, thank you. I'm glad. The whole purpose of the podcast is to be able to help you guys out and figure out this dating thing, because I struggled back in the day, and it was nice to be able to have sources to go to where I could get help. And especially as an introvert, I know that sometimes can be a little bit hard, so I'm glad this is a source you'll be able to use. Continuing, he says, I was contacted by a girl quite recently with whom I had been in contact last year. We set up a date for next Saturday due to my bug restriction and upcoming busy week. So then he says, there's quite a lot of backstory coming up. We met last year in August in a singing class, and we immediately got along. After the first lesson, she offered me her number and even contacted me later that day. A few days later, we met at the cafe and spent time together for 3 hours. So before I get to that part, notice what he said. He said that after the first lesson, what happened? She offered her number, and then she contacted him. What you're seeing here is something that I talk about on this show quite often, which is that women actually want to do the chasing. And when a woman sees you and sees that you are a guy of value, then she's going to do everything she can to put herself in your orbit, even if that means giving you the number and asking you out on the date. Now, obviously, as we read through this, she's gonna start to back off. But this is important to point out right here, is that she is currently doing all the work to try to get him, and as a result of that, he's able to get the date. Remember that, okay? Also, the part where he says, we met at the cafe and spent time together for about 3 hours. I typically recommend you guys keep that first date to no longer than 90 minutes. You really wanna use the shortest amount of time to be able to make the best impression, and then leave so that fresh impression is sticking with her to where she wants to have that second date. Sometimes the longer you go, it can be overkill. She starts to get bored, or you might accidentally say something in the course of that 3 hours that could like totally turn her off from you. And you want to leave her with a good impression. So on the next date, if it is longer, and you happen to say something, well, she's already got a good impression from you from the first date and then the beginning of the second date, to where it's going to be less likely she's going to lose attraction, all right? Continuing on, he says, at the end of the first date, we hugged. And she mentioned a movie evening for the next day on Sunday that we had talked about during the date. So again, she offered the number, she contacted him later that day, met up for the cafe, and then she's suggesting another date. All this is doing is showing she's the one that's initiating these dates. And as a guy, the best position you can be in is whereby rather than you trying to push an agenda or try to constantly ask her out, you can wait for her to suggest something and then just walk through the door and do the date. Now, if she's not offering dates, obviously you want to take her on a date, wait 4 days, contact her again, ask her out. But if in the meantime, while you're waiting for those 4 days to happen, if she happens to come through and ask you on a date, that's always a great sign. That doesn't mean you always have to take the date, by the way, but it is a good sign that indicates that she has a very high interest, so that it's building very fast. Continuing, he says, we had a date at her place and we ended up sleeping together end to end. So, second date, he's senior class, goes on a cafe date, second date. And by the way, she invited him over to her place, okay? More often than not, if a woman is suggesting dinner and a movie at her place, more often than not, that is usually a sign that she wants bedroom stuff to happen. Not all the time, so don't think that just because she said it means you're going to just open the door and just start, banging her brains out. But it does mean that there's a high probability of that happening, all right? And I didn't know that in college. That's why I'm telling you guys now if you're listening. Dinner and a movie at her place. Those three things together typically mean you're probably going to get some action. But again, still make sure you're reading the right signals because you don't want any kind of also me situation happening. Continuing, he says, I asked her out later on twice for the date, to which she never replied. So I figured to give her space and see if she's going to initiate a date as well. So it sounds like he might have possibly asked her out and tried to double text, asked her out and then she didn't respond fast enough. So then he asked her out again. I don't really quite know how that reads. But typically when you're asking a woman out, you send the date idea and we don't know how he asked her. We don't know if he said, hey, do you want to go out again sometime? We don't know if he said, hey, I want to take it to this place at this specific time, which is typically the way you want to ask for a date. We don't really know how he asked for the date. But regardless, you ask for the date, you send the text. You wait for her to send the text back. You don't do double texting, you don't volley, and you just kind of wait for her to respond. That's the best thing you can do, okay? So she didn't respond. And then he says, after telling about the situation to one of my female friends, she suggested I send the message to the girl. And because of my lack of experience, I didn't know why it would be that bad idea to contact her after all. So I'm not sure what the female friend told him to text her, maybe to text her again for another date or whatever. But in my personal experience, I have found that women, if you go to your women friends asking for dating advice or what to do in your particular situation, I find that their advice more often than not is well-meaning, but that doesn't mean that it's effective for your situation because they're typically giving you advice in a way that's oh, the nice guy way to do this would be this, or oh, it sounds credible on paper, but they might be able to give advice that sounds good that wouldn't actually work on even them. Okay, so ideally you have some guy friends or some sources that you can go to that are guy oriented from guys that have been in the situation that can actually give you advice on what they actually did that actually worked to be able to either get the woman on a date or to realize that she was just messing with them and decide to go to somebody else. Okay, so typically you want to go to guys for that kind of information. Again, women are well-meaning, but they are not in the position of being a guy dealing with another woman that is suddenly starting to flake off. Okay. Continuing, he says, eventually she started taking time to respond for a day or so, and I started to feel interest. It was fading, so I figured to stop communicating with her. A few months later, we met at the last group singing class. He says we were actually in different groups, and I happened to come to the wrong group lesson by accident. He says, I asked her casually how she is doing, and the conversation went on smoothly. We got along very well, and I asked her on a date. Again, I don't know what the specifics are of how you asked her out, but still good for you for at least asking for the date. She said she would be quite busy for that month, so she suggested December to me. Now, at the point where she said that, where she said, let's do December, okay? This is when she says that, you start getting specific. You say, okay, that sounds great. What specific day and what specific time is going to work best for you? Is it going to be sometime during the week? Is it going to be a weekend? What is that? You want to solidify that when she's bringing it up, because what can happen is she could say, oh, let's just do it in December. And you're thinking, great, December's going to come up and I'll ask her later. That might be the only time that you're able to solidify and get down a commitment from her that she's going to do some stuff. Because after that, she might get busy, she might forget. But more importantly, you want to push nailing down the date to see if she's really interested. Because let's say she says, let's do December. And you say, okay, great. How about December 3rd? Oh, no, I can't do December 3rd. I'm kind of busy that day. Okay, well, how about the second week of December? Let's say that Tuesday. Oh, I don't know. So what's going on? So as you're starting to ask questions about when she can actually do it, she's either going to say, oh, this date will work for me, this week will work for me, or she'll do what I just did, where she'll start giving these excuses as to why every single day that you're mentioning won't happen to work for her. And if she does that, that really means that she's actually not highly interested. Because again, women that are interested are not only going to help you with that, they're going to already be throwing out dates that would work. Now, if she was really highly interested, she would have said, oh, December works for me, specifically like December 13th. December 13th at 2 o'clock works great for me. But she didn't do that. She said, December. What part of December? The beginning of the month? Somewhere around Christmas? Is New Year's Eve? She didn't say. And she didn't specify because she's hoping that that's going to give her time to delay, and not have to actually go on a date. But let's see what happens. So he says, after getting home, she texted about a topic we had discussed, and we kept in contact for a few days until she again started taking her time replying. And by the way, this is why I tell you guys, it is not advantageous to you to be trying to text a woman every single day, because honestly, just based on the feedback I've gotten from women, most women are busy and don't really have the time to be just texting about a bunch of nonsense every single day with a guy. As the guy, you need to be using texting like it's a weapon. You only use it to be able to get dates. If you're not trying to get the date, you don't have to worry about building rapport. You don't have to worry about trying to flirt with her. You don't have to worry about any other stuff that other gurus might say about, oh, you want to send these texts to really build up her interest. No. If she says yes to the date, it means she has interest. Once you get aside from you getting the date, you don't have to spend all this time on the phone because it's not going to build interest. You build interest with a woman when you're on the actual date. In the time in between dates, you wait a few days until you contact her again to ask for another date. Then you can be a little flirty and say, hey, what's going on, gorgeous? I wanted to see where you can go out, whatever. But you don't have to spend days on end texting a woman to build up her interest, okay? So please stop doing that. Anyway, so then he says, should be quite busy, texted up, okay. He says, I guess I was over texting, you were, which led to that point. For some reason, I thought it would be a good idea to suggest to her the date for a Christmas orchestra concert, to which she never replied. Okay, so for one, Christmas time is a really busy time of the year. So if you're not already like legitimately in a relationship with the woman, assume that the holidays are a bust and just wait till it's over, okay? But even with that, everybody has their phones on them all the time. So if she could not go to the Christmas concert, but she still had interest in you, she could have sent you a simple text saying, hey, I can't make that concert, but I still want to see you. Let's set up something for the new year. Let's set up something for the first week of the new year, or for Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve or whatever. But she did not do that. Why? Because she's not highly interested. Women that are highly interested will get back to you. Even if they can't make something, they'll text you back saying, I can't make this thing, because they don't want you to ever think that you're suddenly no longer in the running if they have high interest. If they don't have high interest, they'll drop off and just be like, well, I'll get back to him whenever. He's going to be there. And based on how you're going at her, she knows that she can go away, come back, and you're going to still be there, ready to give her attention, ready to, for her to be able to talk to somebody until it's time for you to ask her out, at which point she's going to suddenly go away or stuff's going to come up. Continuing, he says, now she contacted last week Sunday and she apologized for not replying. Well, she's doing that because she wants to get back in her good graces. She's not actually sorry, but she knows she has to say that in order for you to continue to talk to her. Anyway, he says, and she apologized for not replying and mentioned that she should have been honest about the rest of last year. She could have done that at any time. Why didn't she? Because she didn't have high interest and because she's not respecting you at this point. Continuing, he says, she mentioned being busy with her bachelor's degree in psychology, which she has finished now, and which we discussed last time face-to-face. But just because you guys discussed it doesn't mean that that's the actual reason she didn't contact you. Because again, I've dated busy women, doctors, lawyers, teachers, etc. They could all manage to get back to me within a span of at least a day if I text them, and they still manage to find time for a dinner, a lunch. Women got to eat. So you tell me this woman this whole time couldn't manage to put together some kind of like, hey, I'm busy all day, but I have like a 30-minute dinner I'm going to get. I'd love for you to see you at that time. She couldn't do that. She couldn't reach out to you to ask you to take her out for a free meal. Like that couldn't happen. Why not? Because she's not highly interested. Continuing, he says, She asked about the concert and mentioned about attending singing classes, to which I'm not going to participate this semester because my spring is simply so busy. We set up the date on Saturday when she was planning to go on a cottage trip with her friends, which she said she will most likely cancel on. And then she mentioned she will let me know if she will, after all, go on the cottage trip. I'll finish the thing up. I had this conversation about 2 days ago. Last messages were sent by me answering her messages and asking how she is doing in general, due to not asking that early on. She hasn't replied to either of those, and I'm having a hunch something is a bit off. What do you think about the situation? Well, what do you think, Guy? Does this look like a situation where a woman is helping you to be able to take her out, or one where she is constantly pushing back and then sporadically coming back for attention, but not ever actually like setting up a time for a meetup? Now, what you just did is another mistake, which is taking a maybe date. We do not take maybe dates. Maybe dates are those dates where it's like, oh, the date could possibly happen unless something else happens, in which case the date might not happen, but I'm going to leave you in limbo because I know you'll sit there and wait until I decide which one it is. Again, here's the thing. She had a college trip with her friends, right? Okay. So at that point, when she mentioned that, you shouldn't have taken the date. You should have said, you know what? It looks like you already got plans that day. I don't want to plan any maybe dates, or I don't want to plan anything where you're already setting plans. So instead of Saturday, let's do Sunday. Or you know what? If this weekend's a bust for you because you got to go on this trip, then what's a good day when you get back that you assuredly do not have any plans that I can take you out for a good time? See if she can answer that, because I'm guessing if she doesn't have high interest, she's going to find another way or reason to not accept the date fully. And hey, I'm speaking as a guy that had this happen in college. I had a crush on a couple of women where I'd ask them out and they'd be like, well, I guess we could do it unless X, Y, and Z plans come through. Then maybe, yeah, we'll see what's up. And women do that because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And to be fair to women, there are a lot of men out there that they deal with whereby if they just give a direct no, the result is some kind of harm to them, or them getting teased, name called, hit, any other amount of horrendous things that guys don't have to go through. So over time, many women have built up a system whereby they can keep a guy at bay, but not ever totally say to him outright, I'm not interested, but hope that they're doing enough to where he gets the hint that she's not interested, so that way he'll just leave her alone altogether. It's not fair, it sucks, but you have to start to read signals for what they actually are. So let's read this situation. In the past 2 months, when you have set up dates, has she given you a direct yes? When you've asked her when's a good time to plan some stuff, has she given you exact days and times that work for her? When you're saying, can we go out? Is she giving you definite days or maybe days? If you're getting a bunch of maybe days and you're getting no text back and you're not having her actively say, oh man, I really want to do this. As a matter of fact, I was thinking, like, look at how she was in the beginning. In the beginning, when she was throwing the number at you. And she was asking you on the date, and she was asking you to come over so she could sleep with you. Is that happening now? Which one of those scenarios looks like a scenario where she was highly interested? The one in the beginning where she was constantly throwing herself at you and inviting you to her place to sleep with her? Or the one now where, oh, you know what? Maybe the thing's happening. Oh, my degree, and oh my God, you know what? Like, geez, my friends have this thing, so I'm not sure. Don't live in the land of maybe, okay? Women that like you help you. Is this woman helping you to see her? I err on the side of right now, that's most likely not happening. So this is a situation for me where I would have recognized this in December. But at the point where I asked her out and she said, well, my friends have this thing, so maybe I can go if I don't go with my friends first. And again, she has free will. And also, she sees her friends more often than not, way more than she's seen you. So if she was highly interested in you, she could forego a weekend with her friends to see you. She's not, because she's not highly interested. Now, by the time you see this, I don't know if at this point the woman will have actually totally gone through on the date or not. So I'll say this. If she ends up going through on the date, that's fantastic. That's a good starting place to try to build. But again, you don't want to be the one that's constantly coming to her. In the beginning, she was coming to you. Women like chasing, okay? I know it sounds backwards from everything that you've learned in your life, but think about it. Men that are of high value and that are of a woman's liking are in low supply. They get offers all day, but that does not mean that those are the men that they want. So when they see a guy that they actually want, they will work to get him, okay? So remember that. Now, by the time you've seen this, if she decides she's flicked on the date, that's not a surprise, and she has low interest, at which point you just say, hey, you know what? Next time, let me know next time you got a free day or whatever, and then you throw away her number and start asking out more women, because this woman is not worth your time. She's pretty much wasting it because she's leaving you in limbo. And never be a guy that waits in limbo. Always ask to get definitive days and times. If they're not trying to give it to you, it means they're not interested, and just say, you know what, never mind. We can just, do it some other time. Just leave it very vague like that. And then if she comes to you at some point in the future, great, but don't waste your time. There are plenty of women out there that will give you definitive dates and will have high interest in you. So for that answers that guy's question. And now on to the second message. And this one says he's confused about the girl he's talking to. So he goes, I want to start by saying the girl that I'm talking to does have depression, which might play a factor in why it's confusing for me. Oh, real quick, let me backtrack, because the previous guy wrote me a follow-up at the end. He said, P.S. She mentioned in the beginning of our dating or whatever phase that she has been dealing with mood swings caused by her depression since 2020. Obviously, the world went topsy-turvy in 2020, so a lot of people came down with depression, okay? And I'm not an expert on depression, so I will say this. I will say if she's so depressed that she can't hold a schedule for a date with you, then this might not be a good time for her to date. That said, she also somehow through her depression is still able to hang out with friends who she's known for a while. But she can't go out with a guy that she's allegedly highly interested in because of her depression. I would seriously question if that is a thing, okay? But anyway, so now we'll go back to the new letter. So he says, basically, we started talking about 3 weeks ago, and after a day, she'd already planned to come around to mine. I thought this would be fine, but on the day, she started getting worried and stuff that this isn't like her to just come around to someone's house, okay, the first day. She still came, but after an hour, she started getting really upset and stuff, so she went home. So what this means is this guy obviously was trying to set up a first date at his place. And however you meet a woman, whether you meet her in public or you meet her through online dating, it's not that you can't get a woman to go home with you on that first night. It's just that you suggesting it is not a good idea, because she's going to start thinking thoughts like, oh, is he just in this for sex? Do I really know this guy? She's going to get apprehensive or anxious. And so this is why it's better to suggest a date that's somewhere outside of your apartment or place. And then if you're having a good time during the process of that, you can ask as the night's ending, hey, by the way, so I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know if you want to go home, or if you don't want to go home, then you can come to my place. We can watch the movies. We don't have to do anything. I just want to keep talking, whatever. And then if that happens to lead to stuff, great. But the point is, you want to first give her a preview of what you're like so she can start building up a little bit of trust in you, enough to where she's not going to feel like you're like an axe murderer or somebody that's going to bring harm to her should she decide to go to your place. But you try to suggest off rip, hey, so for our first date, come to my place. You're going to find women, even women that had high interest in dating you, will reject that offer or feel really kind of awkward about it, to where if she does come to your place, it's gonna feel out of place for her, because it's doing everything backwards. It's like, so I'm at his place first, but we haven't gone out yet. Like, this is feeling uncomfortable. So again, not that it can't work, but again, err on the side of taking her to an actual place outside the apartment first, and then if things are going well, then suggest it. Continuing, he says, I completely get where she's coming from, and it was fine the next day. I asked if she wanted to walk my dog or anything with me, and she said she just feels depressed and not really up to it, but we keep talking. So now he's doing a thing where he's asking for dates right after the previous date. He wants the date. The date happened one day, and now he's trying to do it the next day. Guys, I'm telling you, you need to space out those first few dates. You should be seeing her no more than one, maybe twice a week at max for those first few dates, and they should not be day by day. Like if you take her out on a Monday, you shouldn't take her out again until Thursday. But really, if you take her out on a Monday, you should wait until like the next Tuesday to take her out. Like I typically do it where I'm doing it once a week, and then I'm waiting, and then if she suggests us going on a date, then I'll go on a second date that week. But for myself personally, I only try to ask women out on one date per week. Continuing, He says, the weird thing is she is talking to me in a relationship, sexual kind of way. At this point, we haven't even kissed, so kind of hard to know exactly where I stand, but she told her friends how much she wants to kiss me and always tells me stuff like that. Well, but the problem is you guys haven't actually kissed. And I'm wondering if you've even tried to go for the kiss. Because typically when a woman says that, what that means is that she wants the kiss, it hasn't happened yet, so she's saying things like this to hint out, hey, so I've told my girlfriends that it'd be nice to kiss you. Oh man, I think about how much it'd be great to kiss you. But she's not going to be the one to typically make that move. She's still going to look for you as the guy to make the bold move of actually stepping towards her and doing that kiss. So if somebody said that like to me, the girl's like, hey, oh man, I told my girlfriends that I really want to kiss you. I'd be like, well, why talk about it? We can be about it. Let's make that a reality, babe. And then just go in for it. Like, you got to be that bold and that smooth and set that mood and create that atmosphere that's going to make the woman want to kiss you, okay? Anyway, continuing, he says, one weekend, she was on her way to work and asked what time I'm walking my dog. So I told her and asked if she wanted to meet me on the way to work. And then she said, oh no, it's fine actually, but I just walked my dog anyway. And she then came and met me, and it was nice, very short, but it was nice. Later that day, we phoned when she was just leaving to her friends, and I don't know how it came up, but she said if she doesn't wear a hoodie on the walk over, I will give her mine if I take my dog on another walk. I said, yeah, and we met again. It was quick, again, because she met her friend kind of near me, but I gave her the hoodie. So I guess that's all great, but here's the problem, guys, that you're not actually asking for the date. You need to be asking for an actual date. So these little popovers that you're doing, they're fine and all, I guess, but the problem is that these little popovers aren't allowing you to set a mood or atmosphere of any kind that is going to create romance. You're doing all these dates outside, you're meeting up with your dogs, which again, it's admirable that you like your dog, I guess, but the point is that this dog walking thing isn't actually causing a mood to be set in some way that's going to actually build up the kind of attraction that you really want. And so, as well-meaning as this is when you have to take control of what's actually going on. You have to be the one to say, hey, I enjoy walking our dogs together, but we should set up an actual date. Like, what's a good day and time for us to get together again so I can really take you out and show you a good time? And if she's not being accepting of that, then what that means, unfortunately, is that she, again, like I said with the previous person, is not as highly interested in you as you are in her. Continuing, he says, the next day she was at work again and I told her I was going to walk my dog and she asked me to come get my hoodie, so I did. She could only be quick because she was at work, but she gave it to me and she had sprayed it with her perfume, and she later told me she had done that for me after she texted me saying sorry it was so quick, but she'll see me properly soon. So she sprayed her perfume on her hoodie. Great, but are we gonna get a date? Let's find out. He says, about a week ago, she said she was having a work party, which was last night, and was wondering if she could stay at mine after I said yes. But then a few days later, she said she couldn't because she had to go to the hospital in the morning, after which isn't true because it's the morning after now and she's still asleep. Ah, ha, ha, ha. The writing is really weird here. But continuing, he says, what's really weird is for the past almost week, she's called me every night, which is really nice, and we'll speak for a couple of hours. And even last night when she was walking home, she asked if we could call, and we did. The problem I have is I'm going back to university next week. Luckily, I only have 3 months left, but I would like to at least kiss her before I go. I know that probably sounds weird, but I'd just like to know. She says she'll come and see me at uni and we'll book a weekend off work, but I don't know. I'd like to see her before I go back. So mainly my question is there anyone who's had a situation like this and knows what I should do? Well, again, guy, you're going back to university, which is great, but meanwhile, while she's been home and had time to see you, she hasn't really made all that much time to see you. She's taken a few breaks from work here and there, but she hasn't taken the proper time to really go out with you. So yeah, you've had 3 weeks to get to know this girl. You went out with her like one time maybe, and then you haven't really seen her since, except for the few times that she came to hang out for a little bit of time. This sounds more like a woman that's trying to build a friendship, not one that's necessarily trying to build a relationship. Like, yeah, I know she said, oh, I really imagined kissing you, but you didn't kiss her. And it seems that ship has sailed. And at this point, she's not really giving a lot of signs that indicate that she has high interest. Now, maybe she's shy. Maybe she's just shy and she's hoping that you're a bold enough guy to be able to get past that shyness and make certain moves like kissing her, asking for a date. But you gotta be bold. And again, women that like you ultimately help you. Has at any time she said, hey, I'd like to go out with you again, or hey, why don't we do this and this together? Like in my experience, women that want to build a thing with you will start suggesting those type of things. This hasn't been happening. So again, you have two situations here whereby you have women that are in these guys' lives that aren't really giving them effective enough or efficient enough symbols to really indicate a strong interest. And I don't want you guys living in the land of maybe with women. Either it's a hell yes or a hell no. Either a woman emphatically wants to see you and is trying to suggest dates and is trying to suggest you coming over to her place and is suggesting times to get with each other and giving you signals that indicate she wants to kiss you or get physical, or she's doing all these wishy-washy things where I'll kind of see you sort of part of the time and maybe I connect with you in some kind of level, but not really in a deep enough level to where you can actually get me on a date by myself and possibly kiss me or do other physical things because I'm kind of disgusted, but not really, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. And so I'm going to try to keep you in my orbit and keep getting attention from you, but not really like actually go out with you ever. And that's not a fun place to be. And you don't have to be in that place. You have the option to be able to say like, hey, I want to take you out. When can we go? This is why you have to be asking women boldly for what you want. This is why you have to say things like, when can I take you out? Where can I want to take you here and there? What days and times are you available? Because this gets rid of any ambiguity. If you ask these direct questions and they're all over the place, oh, well, I don't know. Well, then now you know that she's not interested, because women that are interested will be like, yes, I'm available this day, this time. I like this kind of food, this kind of activity. Let's do it. And there's no questioning on your end of whether the person is interested or not. So hopefully, if you've been confused in the past, this has helped you. If you need more help, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and sign up for a one-on-one coaching session. You can also go there to get my free book, No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams. It's technically not a free book, but if you sign up for my email listing, then you'll get access to it for free, both the audiobook and PDF version. But it's the book that shows you why all the things you're doing right now to try to get women actually causes you to lose them, all right? Also go there for the various programs and stuff that we have. It's all designed to help you learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. If you want to show support for this show, two things you can do. One, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/HarryWilmington. And secondly, you can leave a cash donation at $HarryWilmington. Any amount helps and it supports the show. That's all I got for today, guys. I'm Harry Wilmington. Like I said before, if you want one of your questions answered on one of these shows, write to me at harrywilmington@gmail.com and I will do just that. For now, I'll catch you guys on the next show. I'm out. Peace.